Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I want to talk about my experiences lobbying at legislatures and why it is I do what I do, why I feel so compelled to record these hearings and post them from the time that I had 8,000 subscribers to 1 million subscribers. Why is this so important to me, and why do I record them and comment on them the way I do? And I hope that even if you're somebody who disagrees with me, you'll understand my journey if you hear it from the beginning. In 2015, I went to lobby around April or May, and it was my first time showing up at a state legislature. I went from door to door speaking to different assembly people and senators about the bill. What I did was I took a MacBook motherboard that cost about $700 to $800 at the time that I had soldered one wire onto to fix the fact that there was a trace burned out on the board, and I had the fan attached to it, and I brought a charger. And I said that this wire is the difference between this board being a paperweight and this board being something that someone could use to do their homework, do their job, or just enjoy. And I was explaining how the documentation is something that you used to be able to purchase, companies used to make it available, and now not only is it not made available, but if somebody tries to make it available to me, they can actually get in trouble due to, in my opinion, misuses and abuses of intellectual property and trade secret law. I explained my case, and it was actually much easier than I thought to explain my case. I thought that not being a lobbyist, that I was going to get beat down with people citing specific legal arguments in cases, and that as someone with no legal or lobbying experience, that I was in way over my head. But what I realized when I went there is that every single time I spoke to a person at the legislature that had been to the Genius Bar before, or that had a bad experience with their car dealer, they immediately understood what I was talking about, and they would actually say, you don't have to sell me anymore, and they would sign on to be a co-sponsor of the bill. Now, what really bothered me and agitated me, I included it in my video 5 years ago, and I'm never going to forget it, was speaking to one of the assembly people and them explaining to me the arguments that opposition lobbyists would use. One of them said that they were told by a lobbyist that when I fix the board on this machine, that I'm turning the Mac into a PC. And the problem is not with me fixing it, but it's with me misrepresenting this now PC to my customer as a Mac, in spite of the fact that I've modified it to be a PC. And I tried my best to understand that the people that I was speaking to were people who did not understand technology very well. Some of the people that I was speaking to were elderly and just kind of out of touch with technology, and not be condescending and ask, why is it that this reasoning is reasoning that like just stood up? And he said nobody ever showed up to question it, nobody ever showed up to counter it. So someone showed up that he showed the credentials, here's how I'm an expert in my field, here's why it's bad. And he pretty much looked at me and said, no, none of you showed up. Now that you showed up, I know better. And he co-sponsored the bill. And that was the spark that got me to decide I'm going to record every single event that I am legally allowed to record. I am going to show up at every one of these hearings. I'm going to speak to as many politicians as possible. Because if you're listening to this video, maybe even if you were listening to when I said it 5 years ago, you understand why what that politician told me about what the lobbyist told him makes me sick. And it probably makes you sick as well. Rightfully so, because it's just so flawed in so many ways. So I decided that I was going to show up at every single hearing. I was offended to hear that someone would tell such grotesque lies about what is true or what constitutes a problem in my industry when it doesn't, just to get a bill dismissed. And I wanted them to have to up the ante and at least up their game and provide arguments that stood up to the public. I was curious as to how it was they were able to get away with making such fallacious arguments. And I came to the conclusion that they were able to get away with it because nobody else showed up to contest those arguments. Nobody made the time to show up at their legislatures because they were busy with work or school or just playing video games and didn't feel like wasting time to schedule these appointments, and also because it was not done in the public eye. If this were done in the public eye, not only would they be ashamed of what they were doing, but they would be laughed out of the room once tens of thousands of people called up and said, here's why what that person said is BS and wrong. I was offended at how they lied. It continued every single time I showed up at a legislature. In 2017, I showed up at the legislature and someone who was discussing appliances was talking about how the magtrometer in a microwave could explode. There is no such thing as the magtrometer in a microwave. It's called a magnetron. And I've yet to see one actually explode. I recorded this hearing and I discussed this hearing because I thought that this very same outrage and aggravation that audience members felt who actually work in the appliance repair industry is an outrage that should be shared by every single person who was a subscriber of mine who didn't make it to that hearing. Even though that hearing was recorded and live streamed, it was put up on a government website. And I don't know a single person that I've ever met that says, let me start my morning by checking my local legislature's website and listening to the 2 to 4 hour hearings of each topic they talk about. They don't do that. So I wanted to put it on a medium where it would attract a wider audience. Later in 2017, I got to visit Tennessee, and I wasn't able to record it, unfortunately, because I was very sick on that trip. But Jessa did get to lobby, and I got to do a little bit of lobbying, and we got to dispel certain myths. We even got to show a senator how it was you open an iPhone, how easy it is to replace a battery or a screen, and show them that this is not something to be afraid of, which was something that was interesting to them because they were told how difficult and dangerous it was, and we were able to calm their fears there. Later in 2019, I went to yet another hearing in Boston, and I got to hear more and more fallacious arguments used on a regular, and one after the other, and I went over them and I debunked them. And this was when my channel got to around the 1 million subscriber mark. So the last legislative hearing that I had showed up to and recorded was when I had about 80 or 90,000 subscribers. Before that was when I had about 7 or 8,000 subscribers. Here was the tipping point, because now when I would stream the hearing, it's not like I'd have 100 or 200 or 300 people watching. I would have 6,000 people watching. I'd have 9,000 live stream viewers watching. I'd have 10,000 live stream viewers watching. And this started to change the game. Because when someone says, this is why this is dangerous, this is why this is impossible, this is why this is insecure and will lead to things being hacked widespread, now it wasn't 100 people watching that knew it was wrong. Now it was 500,000 eyes on the wrong statement. And when you lie, or you make something up, or you purposely tell a mistruth because you are paid, in my opinion, to do whatever you need to do to lobby to get the bill destroyed, when you have 500,000 people watching, even if a small percentage of those people see through your crap and say something about it, that's going to be a lot of people who see through your crap. And a few days ago, when you heard someone say that if you have to worry about when you get your phone fixed at an independent place, we have to make sure you don't have TikTok put on it, I could hear the collective cringe of tens of thousands of people, because this is a ridiculous argument. I am offended when people imply that people in my industry are people who want to put TikTok on people's cell phones. I am offended when I am sitting in the main legislative hearing and dealers for tractors and other farm gear are implying that it's not that farmers simply want to fix their tractor. Farmers want to get access to this so that they can hack into their tractor and get around emission standards and create climate change and, make their tractors more horsepower just to overclock them so that the corn guy can race the avocado guy when they're bored. No, they want to fix their effing tractor when it breaks so that they can get back to being able to prepare the food that we eat at fair prices, not have to wait a day or 2 or 3 days for a dealer to come out to overcharge them to do the exact same thing. I'm offended when they brand independent repair in this way. I'm offended when they brand farmers in this way. I'm offended when they claim that we are misrepresenting our repairs to our customers because we are converting Macs to PCs and not telling people. That pisses me off. And you know what pisses me off more than anything else? When they play the victim. Because that's what started to happen. That's what's starting to happen, and that's going to happen more and more often. And I think it's important for me to do this video to get out in front of it so that you're aware once these arguments start being made and once people start saying the things that they're going to start saying, that this is the reason they're doing it. I'm not going to say who, but someone mentioned the concept of doxing regarding the video that I had created about a certain person's testimony. I think it's really important to take 3 simple facts front and center here. The first is that every single hearing that I have attended and filmed has been a public hearing. If you have a state ID, even if you are not a resident of that state, you are more than welcome to show up. I have never been to Nebraska before I showed up at that Nebraska hearing. As long as I'm able to get through security, show my state ID, I can get in. I've never been to Olympia, Washington or Washington State before. As long as I could show my ID, I was able to get in. and I was able to listen to everything. The second thing that you should know is that prior to giving any testimony in this public hearing, you are required to state your name, your company, and who you represent. I'm Louis Rossmann of Rossmann Repair Group, Inc., and I represent myself. My name is A. I work for B lobbying firm, and we represent C company. The concept that someone would misuse that word in that manipulative manner tells me something. It tells me that it's not being doxxed that you're bothered by, because the very nature of lobbying is such that you need to actually fill out forms and file them with your government if you are a lobbyist, and these forms are made public. It's that you don't like the fact that people are watching you now. You don't like the fact that you don't get to say behind closed doors anymore that when Louis fixes a machine, he's turning a Mac into a PC and then misrepresenting it as a Mac back to his customer, because people are going to hear it. When you say that people are going to install TikTok on customer phones, when you say that we are purposely going to overclock tractors and screw with emission settings for the hell of it, not that we want to fix them, that people are going to watch that. When you say that microwaves and magnetometers that don't exist are going to explode, that you are going to be exposed to the public for lying so that you could erode their consumer rights to collect a paycheck, and you don't like the fact that's public. Too effing bad. We are all offended collectively at the lies that you have told. We are offended collectively at the way you have done business for the past 5, 10, 20, 50 years in this country. And many of us are tired of it. I don't like this concept of playing the cry bully. I don't like receiving messages where people will imply that this bill had a chance of being approved, but then the lobbyists said they saw your video and how mean it was, and they didn't want to show up anymore. Yes, because this bill had a great chance of getting approved in 2015, when I didn't even upload a video of it showing the testimony. It had a great chance of getting approved every other time it showed up, but they were not. No, I don't buy this, and neither should you. I fully imagine that at some point, somebody within the lobbying industry will say, this had a great chance of passing. We were willing to work across the aisle with you, but that damn guy and his YouTube videos, we don't want to work. No. If that were the case, this bill would have passed in 2015, when I was doing my lobbying and my video was anecdotal, not mentioning anybody, not showing any names on camera. This bill could have passed in 2017, but before I was even able to make my video and upload it, Kim Roback had paid the senator through her lobbying company several $1,000s. And let's not forget about the dealership associations as well as the Chamber of Commerce that testified against the bill and also gave that senator thousands upon thousands of dollars. I'm not allowed to be offended at the fact that you're paying off senators to ignore us when we lobby them to uphold our constitutional rights, but you're allowed to be offended because I wrote the word clueless in a thumbnail. This is something that could have been passed in 2018, when I recorded a press conference around May or June, and everybody said how gung-ho they were about right to repair, and there were not a single lobbyist that I had mentioned. But it didn't. It was buried, the way it always gets buried. And the concept that this is a bill that would absolutely have been passed, and there was such a great chance of it until that asshole showed up and recorded me saying that TikTok would go on people's phones. No. This had a great chance of being approved until that guy showed up and said he was offended that someone said that the people showing up in favor of the bill seek to profit from this legislation, when that's the same person that's cashing a check to lobby against it showed up. How dare he do that? I am disgusted at the level of projection that I am seeing in this industry. And I am disgusted at the fake offense from the individuals who get paid to misrepresent what we do, to misrepresent our position, to misrepresent the industry, and to lie to the very politicians that our taxes pay to represent us. That makes me sick, and I am made further sick by the concept that any of them would ever attempt to scapegoat me for the fact that legislation like this may not pass. I fully intend to show up at every single one of these hearings, I fully intend to record them. I fully intend to post them, and I intend to post them with criticism. If you say that TikTok will be installed on people's phones, I intend to post them with criticism. If you say that magtrometers are going to explode, I intend to post them with criticism. If you get basic elements of cybersecurity wrong, to the point where people that likely make 6 or 7 figures in this field that work for publicly traded companies want to take time out of their day to correct you on your crap. And I am not going to stop doing it. And I don't care if it ruffles feathers. I don't care if it pisses you off. Because if it pisses you off to be on camera in front of people that are the constituents, that are the tax base, that are paying the salaries of the politicians that you are BSing, too effing bad. You signed up for that job when you became a lobbyist. You signed up for that job when you took 6 figures of these companies' money to misrepresent what we do to our legislatures. And since we live in a country where it is okay for us to record these hearings, where lobbyists are required to register themselves when lobbying on behalf of these types of issues, publicly and professionally on behalf of corporations, you will be recorded. People will hear what you say. And if you come up with a good argument against the right to repair bill, I will respect you, I will shake your hand, and I will treat you with the requisite respect that I treated that other gentleman who emailed me today that I included in my video on libertarianism, the non-aggression principle, and right to repair. Because he made his argument in good faith. He did not make things up. He brought up good points, and he did so with respect. And if you come to me with that respect, we will come to you with that respect. But if you come to us with bullshit, you cannot play the victim and claim that the person who is acting as a conduit for what you say and the world is to blame. Perhaps it's what you have to say that's to blame. You have spent large amounts of time being able to get away with what you say behind closed doors, where nobody will have to hear what you say, nobody can criticize what you say, and no one can respond to what you say. And perhaps you're not used to the sunlight. Perhaps you're not used to the fact that people can actually see what it is you're saying and that you're forced to say things that are true or make good arguments. Well, welcome to the internet. Welcome to the real world. Welcome to the world that I have lived in as a public figure for the past 8 years on YouTube, 12 years that I've been using my real name when I register on websites. I got the internet at home for the first time when I was 13 years old. I joined a couple of forums that were of interest to me, as well as joining a few IRC channels. I was surrounded by people who were older and much more mature than I was. I would respond to posts and I would discuss my thoughts and my opinions on issues that weren't very well thought through. I didn't check to make sure they were true. I didn't phrase them properly, and I was not mature in my presentation. And as a result, I had my ass handed to me. I was ridiculed by large numbers of people because what I was saying was dumb. But the fact that it was all aired in public, people could see what I said. I would see where they pointed out how I was wrong. I would see their citations as to how I was wrong, and I would feel their energy as to whether or not they were encouraging towards me or ridiculing or just disappointed in me. And that affected the way that I presented my arguments. It affected the way that I researched my arguments, and it affected me as a human being. It forced me to kind of smooth out the edges of my personality and become a person that cared more about facts and truth and reason and evidence and morality than just being some immature 13-year-old kid. And what I think is happening here is that these lobbyists have never actually been out in the open with their ideas. They're used to speaking in chambers where there's a camera that is live streaming to a website that nobody is watching. They are used to being behind closed doors, speaking to people who don't understand technology very well, able to give campaign contributions and just make things go away. But now things are changing. Their arguments are being shown in public, and they are experiencing for the first time in their lives the same thing that I experienced when I first got the internet and started speaking with people who were much smarter than I was. And most people who were in my experience eventually become more mature, better at making arguments, and one of the individuals in that first forum that I joined that I remember ridiculing me when I was saying stupid crap is now one of my best friends 20 years later. If you took this job and you believe in what you're saying, and you believe that you are correct when you present your information and your viewpoints about the repair industry and these bills, then why is it that you seem to be so aggravated, afraid, and annoyed by the fact that this is being viewed and heard by millions of people? Because when I believe that I'm in the right, when I truly believe in what I'm saying, I don't want to hide from anybody. I don't want it to be only behind certain doors or only so that a small select amount of people can hear it. I want as many people as humanly possible to hear the arguments that I present because I believe in those arguments. Do you believe in yours? It seems like they're not used to their arguments, their debate tactics, or the way they present themselves ever being seen out in public, aired in the sunlight where everybody can see it. Guess what? Too bad. If you don't like it, you shouldn't have cashed the check, and you shouldn't have taken the job. One of the things that I've been mentioning on this channel for the past 8 years or so from the very beginning is that it doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter how insignificant, even if you are a janitor or someone who pumps gas. Your job and what it is you can do to lead a better life and a life with purpose is clean up your own small corner of the world. Make your own small corner of the world, whatever it is you do, whatever you take part in, a little bit less of a mess and a little bit better. This is the way that I clean up my corner of the world, and I am going to continue doing it. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.